The jungle is a living, breathing entity. In the Pacific during World War II, it was also a killer. For the United States Marines pushing through islands like Peleliu and Okinawa, every leaf, every vine, and every shadow could hide death. The air was thick with humidity and the constant buzz of insects, but the real terror was silence. A sudden lack of noise often meant one thing: a sniper was watching. These weren't just soldiers with rifles. They were masters of camouflage, tied into treetops, their skin painted to match the bark. They were patient predators, waiting for the slightest mistake. A head raised too high, a careless step, a glint of metal in the sun. It was a war of nerves, a deadly game of hide-and-seek where the stakes couldn't be higher. Surviving in this environment requires more than just firepower. It demands a primal understanding of your surroundings and your enemy. The Japanese snipers were trained to be ghosts. They would let entire patrols pass by, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, often targeting leaders or medics to cause maximum chaos and fear. The psychological toll was immense. Marines felt like they were being hunted, their every move scrutinized by invisible eyes. The jungle itself became the enemy, a suffocating green hell that offered no clear front line, no safe rear echelon. Every inch of ground had to be earned with blood, and the constant threat of a single, well-aimed shot frayed the nerves of even the most hardened veterans. This was a unique kind of warfare, one that conventional training hadn't fully prepared them for. You can't fight what you can't see. The snipers were so well hidden that firing back blindly was a waste of precious ammunition and, worse, a giveaway of your own position. The Marines were pinned down, unable to advance, their momentum stalled by an unseen force. Fear is a powerful weapon, and the Japanese wielded it expertly. The crack of a rifle followed by a man falling created a ripple of panic that could halt an entire company. It was a brutal, efficient tactic that was costing too many American lives. Something had to change. They needed a new way to think, a new way to fight back against the ghosts in the trees. Innovation in the wild often comes from desperation. When your back is against the wall, your mind is forced to work in ways you never thought possible. The solution wouldn't come from a military textbook or a general's grand strategy. It would come from an unexpected place, the mind of a man who understood performance, misdirection, and the art of fooling the human eye. The jungle demanded a different kind of warrior, one who could think like a hunter and a showman. The Marines needed a trick, a clever piece of fieldcraft that could turn the sniper's greatest strength, their patience and precision, into their biggest weakness. The answer was simple, almost ridiculous, but it would change the game entirely. Enter Sergeant William Bill Eldridge. He wasn't your typical by-the-book military man. Before the war, Eldridge had worked in carnivals. He knew how to draw a crowd, how to capture attention, and most importantly, how to fool people's eyes. He understood the psychology of the mark, how to make someone look exactly where you want them to look. This background, which seemed a world away from the grim reality of combat, gave him a unique perspective. He saw the battlefield not just as a place of brute force, but as a stage where perception could be manipulated. He watched his fellow Marines fall, pinned down by an enemy they couldn't locate, and a wild idea, born from his carny days, began to form in his mind. The problem was clear. How do you make a sniper reveal their position without sacrificing a man? Eldridge knew that snipers are trained to react to specific cues, primarily the movement of a human head. A helmet popping up over a log was an irresistible target. His idea was brilliantly simple. Give them a target, but make sure it isn't attached to a Marine. He proposed taking a standard-issue M1 helmet, placing it on top of a stick, and slowly raising it from behind cover. It was a puppet show for a deadly audience. The concept was so outlandish that it was initially met with skepticism. In the middle of a firefight, playing with a helmet on a stick sounded like a quick way to get yourself killed. But Eldridge was persistent. He understood human nature. A sniper lying in wait for hours, sometimes days, is under immense pressure. Their entire focus is narrowed down to one thing: spotting and eliminating the enemy. When a target, even a questionable one, presents itself, the instinct to shoot can be overwhelming. It's a release of all that built-up tension. Eldridge wagered that the sniper's training and psychology would compel them to take the shot. He was betting that a carefully mimicked movement could trick a highly trained marksman into making a fatal error. It was a con man's trick, repurposed for the deadliest stage on Earth. His superiors, desperate for any advantage, eventually gave him the green light. The helmet trick was born. It wasn't about complex technology or overwhelming firepower. It was about outsmarting the enemy on a fundamental psychological level. Eldridge was turning his experience from fooling fairgoers for a few dimes into a technique that could save lives. He was about to prove that sometimes the most effective weapon isn't a gun, but a deep understanding of your opponent's mind. The carnival barker was about to teach the Marines a new kind of survival skill, one that relied on cunning and creativity in the face of mortal danger. Performing the helmet trick required a steady hand and a heavy dose of courage. First, a Marine would find solid cover, a fallen log, the lip of a foxhole, or a dense thicket of bamboo. The key was to be completely concealed. Then they would take a spare helmet and fix it to the end of a stick or a rifle. This wasn't just a matter of sticking it on top. It had to look natural. Some Marines would even stuff the helmet with leaves and dirt to give it weight, making its movement less jerky and more like a real head. The Marine would then get into position, heart pounding, ready to become a puppeteer in a life-or-death play. The next step was all about the performance. The Marine couldn't just shove the helmet up into the open. That would be too obvious. Instead, they had to mimic the cautious movements of a soldier peering over cover. They would raise the stick slowly, just an inch or two at first, so only the very top of the helmet was visible. They would hold it there, motionless, for a few seconds, then dip it back down. This was crucial. It simulated a soldier taking a quick look. After a brief pause, they would raise it again, a little higher this time, maybe tilting it slightly as if the head were scanning the area. This slow, deliberate movement was designed to catch the sniper's eye and trigger their predatory instinct. The tension during these moments was incredible. The Marine holding the stick knew that somewhere out there, a sniper was likely drawing a bead on that helmet. They were deliberately baiting a killer. The reward for a successful performance was the sharp crack of a Japanese Arisaka rifle. The bullet would tear through the empty helmet, often with a loud ping as it struck the steel. The trick had worked. The sniper, convinced they had hit their mark, had just given away their most valuable secret: their position. The muzzle flash, the sound of the shot, or the puff of smoke from their rifle was a death sentence. Immediately, other Marines who were watching and waiting would zero in on the source of the shot. They now had a confirmed target. Before the sniper could reload or realize they had been fooled, a volley of concentrated fire from M1 Garands, bars, and machine guns would erupt, silencing the threat for good. The trick also had another benefit. It forced the snipers to waste ammunition. In the isolated jungles of the Pacific, every single round was precious. By tricking them into shooting at empty helmets, the Marines were not only exposing them, but also draining their limited resources, turning the tables on these patient hunters. The impact of Eldridge's helmet trick was immediate and profound. It wasn't just a clever one-off idea. It fundamentally changed how Marine squads dealt with the sniper threat. What was once a source of paralyzing fear became a solvable problem. Platoons no longer had to stay pinned down for hours, waiting to be picked off one by one. They now had a proactive method for hunting the hunters. The psychological advantage shifted. The snipers, once confident in their invisibility, now had to second-guess every target. Was that a real Marine, or was it another decoy? This hesitation could be fatal, giving real Marines the split second they needed to advance and survive. The number of lives saved is impossible to count, but anecdote after anecdote from Pacific veterans confirms the trick's effectiveness. It became a standard operating procedure. When a unit came under sniper fire, the call would go out to get the hat trick ready. It was a simple, low-tech solution that any Marine could use with the gear they already had. This was its genius. It didn't require special equipment or extensive training, just a bit of nerve and a steady hand. The trick empowered individual soldiers, giving them a tool to fight back against an enemy that had seemed invincible. It turned potential victims into bait, and bait into hunters. The story of Bill Eldridge and his carnival-inspired tactic spread like wildfire through the Marine Corps. It was a testament to American ingenuity and the ability to adapt under extreme pressure. Here was a man who used his unconventional life experience to solve a deadly battlefield problem. The idea was so effective and so simple that it was eventually incorporated into official Marine Corps training manuals. Recruits were taught how to properly execute the helmet trick as a basic survival skill. It became a legendary piece of battlefield lore, a symbol of how creative thinking could triumph over brutal, entrenched tactics. Today, on November 17, 2025, the story serves as a powerful reminder that in survival, your mind is your greatest weapon. Eldridge didn't invent a new gun or a thicker piece of armor. He used psychology. He understood his enemy's mindset and exploited it perfectly. The helmet on a stick is more than just a quirky World War II tale. It's a masterclass in asymmetrical warfare, proving that sometimes the most ridiculous-sounding ideas are the ones that work best. It's a legacy of cunning, courage, and the simple, life-saving power of outthinking your opponent when everything is on the line.